Here's one thing I would do differently if I was starting a business in 2025. I would ditch perfection and I would start messy. And that was exactly how I wrote this down. I would ditch perfection and I would start messy because when we wait for everything to be perfect, we are never ever going to get started. Well, hey there, and welcome to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I'm your host, Sam Hind, and I'm here to inspire you and help you to step into not only the best version of yourself, but to share your message with the world, to have an impact, to share your passion, to do what you love. As a business owner and entrepreneur myself, this year marks 10 years since I stepped into the business world. Prior to that, I didn't think I had what it took. I didn't think it was possible. And I can tell you right now, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Fast forward 10 years, and we have grown an incredible business that is impacting thousands of people all over the world. I get to do every single day what I love, but it is not without its challenges. Over the last 10 years, I have learned so many valuable lessons, some of which I think are critical and important for all of us to learn, sometimes the hard way. But others, I really hope that no one else has to learn the way that I learned them. So I wanted to put together a quick little power podcast episode for you. If you're growing a business right now, whether you're right at the beginning of your journey or you've been doing this for a while, I want to share with you 5 things that I would do differently if I was starting a business in 2025, knowing what I know now. So here goes. Let's dive on in. I'm going to share with you my 5 strategies that I would implement in 2025 if I was starting a business. Okay, so here's the thing. When I started out my business, first of all, I had a passion and something I was really excited to do, but I didn't have a lot of self-belief. And so what that turned into was a need to be absolutely perfect all of the time. I was constantly worried about what did people think of me, and therefore a lot of the time I simply didn't show up. I remember a time where I literally stopped doing Facebook Lives because one person made a silly little comment that they probably didn't even mean the way I received it. But I was so conscious of how people saw me. I was so conscious of trying to prove myself, and I was so conscious of trying to get things right all of the time that I think I not only missed a lot of opportunities, but I missed a lot of opportunity to learn and grow in those early days. So here's one thing I would do differently if I was starting a business in 2025. I would ditch perfection and I would start messy. And that was exactly how I wrote this down. I would ditch perfection and I would start messy because when we wait for everything to be perfect, we are never, ever going to get started. One of the things that I love to teach inside of our community is presence over perfection. Nobody that started doing Facebook Lives had it nailed the first time they did it. No one that started a successful business nailed it the first time they did it. But one of the things that I tended to do in those very early days was hold back, hold back, hold back, hold back. And then through pure anxiety or absolute need, I would release something or do something or start something. Whereas I really think there were a lot of times that I could have rolled something out and learned a lot of things along the way and done it in a much calmer and fun environment. I think I would have learned a lot more in those early days too by trialing more things, by playing with more things and backing myself. This was one of the biggest things. Okay, so this then leads me to the next thing I would do differently in 2025. And I want to bring this one up because it's something that it almost breaks my heart when I see this with other business owners. I see this a lot and I really see myself in this behavior as well because I've been there. I understand it. I know it. But here's the deal. There are some people out there who grow an incredible business very quickly because they understand the power and importance of this one thing. The people that I think grow slower than they want to and their business just feels like it's like they're walking through mud, honestly, are the people who don't get this one thing. And it's this. when you start out, the very first thing that you should be focused on doing isn't building this, business and brand over here that's about the products and the services and the business that you have, but it's about the personal brand that you build. So one of the very first things that I would do early on, or right at the very beginning, would be to outline a strategy and to build a personal brand literally from day one, not just a business. I think a lot of people get really caught up, as I did, in the business, in the marketing strategy for the business, the delivery of everything that you're doing within the business. But at the end of the day, this is the key thing to remember here. People buy from those they like, know, and trust. We all know this. But how many of us, when we start a business, really, truly get that? There are a few industries where I think people do this very well, and I want to point them out, because if I had stopped and really thought about this in those early stages, I think I might have done things a little differently back then as well. Real estate is one of them. Real estate agents understand that it is not about the agency I belong to. It's about the relationship and the connection people have with me and my personal brand. I could go anywhere. I could work for any agency, but people will come to me because they like, know, and trust me. We see this even with, think about the travel agents or the bankers that get the most business. They're the people that lead with personal brand first. So this is really important. No matter how big or small your business is, no matter what your product or your service is, at the end of the day, people want to know the person and the story they're connecting with behind the scenes. So if I could start my business again in 2025, I would lead with that. Now, one of the reasons I didn't, of course, is what I've already mentioned, and that was because I didn't back myself. I didn't see me as being something people actually wanted to hear from or connect with. In fact, when I first started my business, I wasn't teaching, I wasn't doing videos, I wasn't training, I wasn't speaking at all. I was literally behind the scenes running marketing for other companies. I was not a face. I was not something that was out there for people to connect with and know. It was literally, you found out about me through other people talking about it. I didn't put myself out there. Now, that had its pros and its cons, but I will tell you that as I started to step into teaching and training, and by the way, the only reason I did this was because I had a few people that saw me and believed in what I was doing, that said to me, see this person who's doing exactly that, who's teaching online, you need to be doing that. You've got knowledge and an ability to communicate with people that's rare, and people need to hear this knowledge. They need to know what you know. And it was only through the encouragement of a few people that I stepped out and went, I'll give it a go. And let me tell you, it was super scary. But had I really focused on building that personal brand from the beginning, my business would have taken off a lot faster, a lot earlier. And I would have had a lot more loyal fans and followers early on. As soon as I got that, as soon as I understood it, and it took a good 5 years, by the way, for me to understand that, my business started to grow in leaps and bounds in ways I couldn't have possibly imagined. But I had to understand that backing myself first and leading with the relationship, the connection, and building that trust was critical. Okay, so now I want to speak into another thing that I do talk about a lot, because I really believe that this is so important. And I did do this early on, but I want to bring it in. Like, if I was starting a business in 2025, this would be one thing I'd absolutely incorporate, but I would do it slightly differently. So here's the thing. I really believe in having a coach or a mentor at all times when in business, for a number of reasons. The first is you need someone to keep you accountable. The second one is you need someone who believes in you more than you believe in yourself in those moments when you really struggle, and you will. You will be tested. Your mission will be tested. Where you're headed, your legacy, your vision, it's all going to get tested. And there are going to be times you want to quit. So first of all, having a mentor or a coach is really important, to have someone by your side to help you with this. Now, I was really blessed because I had an incredible coach right from day one. In fact, I had someone who approached me, who could see what I wanted to do and really pushed me. I remember her sitting me down, having a coffee with me and saying, stop dipping your toe in, just dive in and get this business going, because you've got something amazing here. So with her encouragement, I did. But she also said something important to me, and I really want to emphasize this. She said, I could coach you for free, but I'm not going to. And the reason I'm not going to is because if you don't pay for my service, you won't do what I tell you to do. You won't value the information I give you. You won't take action on the strategies I tell you to implement. So she said, I know my stuff. I've grown lots of businesses. And she is, to this day, the owner and CEO of a huge direct selling company. And I still am very, very close to this person. But she said to me, in order for me to teach you what you need to know in order to grow the business and have the impact that you want to have, you are going to have to implement some tough things. You're going to have to stretch outside of your comfort zone. And if it doesn't hurt you to do it, in other words, if you're not paying enough money that you need to really work hard to recoup that, you're not going to do the work. And so she charged me back in those early days, I think it was like $1,000 a month. And that was a lot of money. I wasn't earning any income at this stage to pay myself. I was barely covering costs. And so there was a lot of incentive for me to work really hard to get good results really quickly because I had to replace that money. So the pressure created the outcome I wanted to get. So that was the first thing. And I wouldn't change that. I would do it the same way. I would do it with the same person. I really truly believe I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for that experience. But here's the thing I would do differently. I would add in an extra 2 elements. The first thing I would add in is some mentors. Now, a coach and a mentor are similar in many ways, but generally speaking, a coach you pay and a mentor is someone that you respect, that is someone that you can check in with, that you admire, but also that you can stay accountable with. They're usually someone who is where you want to go, or at least has walked a lot of the walk that you are currently going on. And so a mentor is someone I didn't incorporate into my, sphere of influence. So one of the things I would do is I would add 3 to 5 mentors, people who are in different areas that are powerful in different areas that I admire, that I want to aspire to become more like. And I would have a mentor in a few key areas. One, definitely business, because you can have a coach and they might specialize in some areas, but you want someone else who also has some different qualities that you would like to take on. Now, remember, the people that you surround yourself with help you become who you want to be. The 5 people you spend most of your time with will dictate the person that you are. In other words, the people you spend most of your time with will literally flavor you. They will leave a residue behind on you. And so if you want to get to a certain point in life, whether it's in your spiritual side, whether it's in your health and fitness, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's in your business, your finance, whatever that is, make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people that flavor that part of your life, that leave a residue on you and change and evolve who you are. And so while I had an amazing coach, I would have added in some mentors in particular areas. One of the areas I would have added a mentor in, and this is actually something I've been working on recently, is getting myself some mentors in this space, is the spiritual side. Mentors that help me to connect with that part of myself that's really critically important, because I think we focus on developing certain areas of our life, but other areas can really get left wanting. And one of the areas for me, definitely, that I have not invested enough time in educating myself on, in growing in, has been my spiritual side, my Christian walk. For me, that's what my spiritual side is. So a couple of Christian mentors are definitely something that I would have had in place right at the beginning. Now, the next area would have been my health and fitness, and the other would have been my relationships. So mentors don't need to be people who are in a professional capacity mentoring people in this space. A mentor is simply someone who you admire and respect in that area of their life. And you think, if I could just be a little more like that person in that area, if I could learn some things from that person, that's a brilliant mentor to have. And so what I would have done is invited a few people in those key areas to just have a call with me or connect with me or have a coffee with me once every, say, 1 to 3 months, and just check in with them, share with them what my vision is and my goals are in that area of my life. So I've got someone that can call me to account but also can walk along my side and cheer me on when I need it. So I definitely would have established some mentors. The other way I would have adjusted this area of my life, the area of mentoring and coaching, etc., would have been peers. So I think there's a few elements here. You've got coach, someone that you professionally hire and pay to keep you accountable, that creates that pressure on your life so you really push yourself. A mentor, somebody who you admire and respect, who flavors your life, who cheers you on, who you can learn from in more of a casual capacity. But then, thirdly, peers, other people who, for me, you can also support. I really believe in the law of reciprocity. And I think it's not just about what we get, it's also what we give. And when you are helping others to grow in the area that you too want to grow, it really changes the experience that you have. First of all, it changes the gratitude that we experience, but it also allows us to give. You know, one of my favorite quotes, and I've got this actually right here on my computer screen where I'm staring right now, is be a blessing and you will be blessed. And I love that. That law of reciprocity, what you give, you receive. So, number one, peers for that reason, but also because sometimes we get stuck in our own way of thinking. And our own way of thinking can really inhibit us because we've got this box, these habits for the way that we think. And sometimes we need to break out of that box and we need to think outside the square. And when you've got peers who are like you, who you align with, people who are trying to grow themselves, their business also, it's really important with a group of peers that they're people that um, you share similarities with. You don't need to be in the same industry, but definitely people who are driven like you are, who are inspired like you are, who have vision like you have. And we're all different in that way, by the way. Some of us are creative. Some of us are really logical thinkers. Some of us are, very, very structured in our approach, and others are quite haphazard. You want to have a mixture of different people around you that again flavor you, but you can pull on for ideas. And this again is something I'm setting up at the moment, is what I'm calling a mastermind style group of a few peers, people who I really admire and respect, that are walking a similar walk to me in various different industries, that where we can come together and we can throw a problem out there and we can help each other solve our problems. We can help each other be creative. And I really believe that having peers alongside you also makes you feel less alone. Here's one thing I know about being an entrepreneur and a business owner is it can be a very lonely place. So having people around you all of the time that you can pull on to feel less lonely and feel part of something bigger is also very valuable. Okay, here is my fourth thing. My fourth thing that I would do if I was starting a business right now is prioritize community. So when it comes to metrics and social media and the focuses and the things that that I would prioritize, yes, having a front-facing social media presence, very important. Business page, utilizing that personal profile, thinking about the platforms you need to be on, all of that matters. But the one thing that I didn't do at the start was community. And community right now in 2025 on social media is absolutely key in several different ways. We can build our own community, which is, our existing customers, our nurture, our group that we want to nurture. But then we can also create community that attracts our ideal customers into one place and one location where we can really provide them with value, build relationship with them, establish credibility even. And so absolutely, I would have come up with several different community building strategies earlier on if I were doing this again now. So in 2025, this would have been an absolute must for me. It's a huge part of what we do now. In fact, I would say 80% of our social media efforts now go into our communities and 20% go on that front-facing stuff. And this will change a little as trends change, as social media strategies need to change. We've always got to shift that. But right now, community is key. So I would put a lot more focus in that if I were restarting a business today. The last thing, and I want to finish off on this, I've left it last on purpose, is because it's probably the biggest thing that I would change if I was starting a business right now. And this was something I learned the hard way that I do not ever want anyone else to learn. And that is avoiding burnout by setting clearer boundaries for myself and my family around work. Now, often it's really funny when I tell people about why I have an office in town. So I actually have an external office. I do have one at home now. I don't love that, but I hate working from home. And before I can explain to people why, they go, "Oh yeah, me too," because you get so distracted by the laundry and the things that you got to do around the house. And I'm like, no, for me, it's the opposite to that. The reason I hate working from home is because I've got two babies. I have my babies that are my home babies, my children, my family. But my other baby is my business. And I am so passionate about what I've built here, what Greg and I are now building together, but also the impact that we're having really is important to me. It's a must, not a maybe. And so I can fall into the trap very, very quickly of working, uh, of not having I guess, a boundary, an off switch when it comes to work. And so when working from home, I've got a tendency to not stop. There were days in the early stage where I would literally walk in the house, sit down at my desk, and not leave it till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I could still keep going. And I realized one day there was a particular turning point for me where when I started to get to the point where my delivery, the amount of delivery I had to do was just overwhelming. I had worked so hard on getting business that now I had all this delivery. And I remember walking through the doors of my home. I had Levi, who at the time would have been probably 3 or 4 years old, on my hip. I walked through the door with the groceries in one hand. And as I stepped through the door, I felt this sense of doom and dread come over me because I knew I had to make a choice because my desk was right there. I could see it and I could feel the workload just literally radiating from it. And I thought, I have to choose right now between spending time with my kids, being present in my family, or going to my desk. And all of these things were important to me, and I didn't know how to make the right decision. And I knew really at that point that I needed to have some separation. I needed for home to be home and work to be work. And that was the day where I sat down with Greg and I said, I need to have an external place to go. And we got creative about it. We thought, well, this doesn't have to be an overhead or expense, because at that stage I absolutely couldn't afford the rent of an office. And I thought, there's got to be lots of businesses out there in our local community that have got a spare room, a spare office space that is just gathering dust and boxes and things that they don't care if someone comes in and uses. So I called on a few friends, a few other business owners, and said, hey, could I pay you $50 a week and just come in and use an office whenever I feel like it? And I guess the giving of others in this space just overwhelmed me at that time. I was given an office space for 12 months with one business. I then grew and I grew team. I then had Rachel came on board, who's been on this podcast, and I needed more space. And so I approached another friend and they said, absolutely, come. We've got two offices. You can come and use them whenever you want. They gave me an alarm code, a key. They were amazing. And so the office I'm in today, which we've been in now for nearly 3 years, is actually the first office that has been our office. For 7 years, I rented spaces off friends in business that had a room that they weren't using. So you can get creative in this space, but for me, it was really important to go to work and come home. And I really wish I hadn't gone through. I guess I had to go through that learning so that I could pass this on to you today and I could know the importance of separating, which was really important when I had Addie, because again, I had to start working from home for a period of time. It was necessary with that part of life, that season of life that I was in. But I also knew that I had to create for myself some rules and boundaries. I also set some rules around what happened with my phone at home, hours that I worked. Sometimes it's necessary that we do work from home, 100%. There are definitely times that I have meetings at home, but my family knows that number one, my phone does not go in my bedroom. It actually lives on charge in a completely separate room of the house because another pattern I noticed was even through the night, if I woke up in the middle of the night, I would tap my phone and I would check for notifications. And again, if there was like a really important email that had come through or something that I needed to address, I couldn't go back to sleep. I'd get up and I'd go deal with it. And again, I'm working through the night. And I thought, okay, In order to deal this, I need to have my phone in another room of the house. I also would put my phone onto silent mode. Literally, it lives on silent mode permanently, so it's not dinging and buzzing when I'm with my kids. But also at 9 o'clock at night, it goes on to do not disturb. So again, I can sit down, I can be with them, and I'm not looking at it for work. And I now have a really strict, I guess, inner need to have those things very separate, to the point where, Greg can really work in both of those worlds simultaneously really, really well. And he can come home and he can kind of jump from talking about work to talking about home stuff. I can't and I won't. And so I've got this inner need to just say separation needs to be there. And so he now knows, at 5:30 at night, we stop talking about work stuff, but we can start talking about 8 o'clock the next morning. So, but if we need to have those discussions, he will stop and say, I need to have a work discussion with you. Can we just, and I will literally take a sideward step when that happens. It's almost like I'm stepping into another version of myself in that moment, because it allows me to then step back into the version of myself I need to be when I'm at home. So some of these little strategies might be useful for you. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But I wanted to share this today because I get the honor and privilege every day of working with business owners and entrepreneurs all over the globe. And if you're listening to this podcast, it's highly likely that you're trying to grow a business, a dream, a vision for yourself, and you're wanting to have an impact. But I want to just remind you, number one, you matter too. And so in order for you to be the best version of yourself that you need to be, you've got to fill that cup of yours. So avoiding burnout, very, very important. And we know enough about it now to know how to avoid it, how to really put that oxygen mask on you first and make sure that you're pouring from a full cup, not an empty one each week. So definitely setting boundaries around work and family at the very beginning would have been critical for me. Definitely what I would do now if I was starting again. But let's just go back over those 5 tips. So number 1 was be present over perfect. So I would have ditched the perfection and I would have started messy. Second of all, I would have focused on building my personal brand right from the beginning, being me and connecting with people genuinely and in a real and relatable way. Number 3, I would have invested not just in a coach in the early stage, but I would have surrounded myself with some key mentors and some other people that I could do this journey with, so to speak. Number 4 is I would have prioritized community right from the very beginning. And number 5 is I absolutely would have set those boundaries, put them in place to separate work, family life, and fill my cup every single week to make sure that number 1, I was prioritizing myself and avoiding burnout, but also putting importance on all of the areas of my life, not just my business. So they're my quick tips for you today. I hope that this has been inspiring for you, a little uplifting, maybe given you some tools or strategies or tactics that you might be able to implement. If I can help one person today, I've done my job. So that's it from me today. If you've loved this episode, please share it with a friend and don't forget to subscribe. We would love to have you on our upcoming episodes. We've got some incredible guests lined up that we would love for you to be a part of, listening into and gleaning from their incredible knowledge, wisdom, and expertise as well. So that's it from me today. Have an incredible week. Go and fill your cup. And I can't wait to see you on the podcast again next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.